Hey guys, good morning. Brian with Vet Source here, checking in from the garage this morning. And in order to avoid some of our mid-July Texas heat, we're definitely in the triple digits now. But we're still working, still pushing through the summer. So all you northern people, we're envious for the cooler weather you're getting now, but that's okay. It all flips in the winter for us. So today what I thought I'd bring you real quick was a brief description and disassembly of a Corvette tachometer assembling. For those of you that are not aware, that are watching, a Corvette, or I'm sorry, just a tachometer in general, is a device used to measure the revolutions per minute of the crankshaft of your engine. Now, I know a lot of you see it on the dashboard of your cars, but you may not understand what it actually is telling you. So let me kind of give you a brief overall description here. So you can see here, you've got numbers. Now this is an older tachometer. This is out of a 69 Corvette. This would be 0 all the way up to 70, right? Now what this represents is the revolutions per minute of your crankshaft times 100, okay? Crankshaft being, basically imagine the bicycle crank on your car, which is getting turned around and pushed. That's what happens with the crankshaft in the engine. That's how it generates the power back to the rear wheels. So if you look at these numbers times 100, you can see that if you were at the 70 mark, you'd actually be turning, the crankshaft would be spinning 7,000 times per minute. So think about that for a minute and how fast the moving parts in your motor are going. And it's kind of interesting to think of machinery being able to travel that fast. So what I'm going to detail today is the disassembly of this tachometer assembly and show you guys how it's put together. This is what we call an old school, or OG, I guess the kids use in the gaming community. This is from 1969. You can actually still see on here, where's my date code? Here we go. February of 1969, so that's kind of a cool thing. This is an interesting tachometer. If you're looking at it here, now different tachometers have different red lines. Red line meaning that space right there. You see that starting to yellow is a warning zone to the red line. So depending on what engine you had and what cubic inch displacement and horsepower rating, and it still holds true today, you're going to see differing levels of red lines. You know, diesel motors have a lower red line. Performance cars usually have a higher red line, and average everyday cars have kind of an in-between, just because you don't want to over-rev the engine. Again, when you're looking at this is how fast the crankshaft is spinning per minute, you don't want to do serious damage and destroy the motor. So looking at this one, you can see the red line on this begins at 5,600 or 5,600 RPMs per minute, revolutions per minute, all the way up to 7,000. This is specifically, this tachometer is for a 68, 69 Corvette equipped with 427s and 70 Corvettes with 454s, and then your 350 horse, 370 horse cars, which are the LT1 cars, had these. So this would be the lower horsepower version variant of the 427. This is the 390 or 400 horsepower tri-power. Now I will show you as a quick aside before I delve into this. If you see one of those, you'll see that's going to be a lower horsepower 427. One of these tachometers here, if you're fortunate enough to ever find one of these, if you're looking, you can see the red line does not start until 6,500. This is what we basically refer to as an alpha dog in the Corvette world. This would be one of the fire-breathing solid lift cam 427 L71 motors. These are 435 horsepower in different varieties, configurations, but this would have produced the most horsepower for the Corvettes, pretty much of all the car lines for GM at that time period, rated horsepower. So you see there the tri-power carburetors. These are not what you consider daily driver automobiles, but they're very fun to drive, and you actually do have to drive them. So again, just a quick look. That red line begins at 6,500 RPM, and that big old 427 will spool up pretty quickly on you on these cars. So getting back to this one here, what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to tear it down and show you how it's built, how it actuates. Now, you know, new cars all have electronics that control everything. This whole thing just has a basic little clip that holds that cable in. You can see me pushing. It's a pressure clip, and as you turn that, see if I can get it with one hand so you can see. It doesn't like to. If you turn it, that's what activates that RPM gauge in there. And this is connected on the Corvettes, at least. Most of the cars had it connected to the transmission. The Corvettes had this connected to the tach drive distributor on the side of the distributor because it would spin directly off the distributor gears. This here is a vacuum solenoid for the wiper door on the Corvettes, which is this piece right here, which is actually controlled by vacuum. When you open up excuse me, turn on the wiper switch, this door actually pulls up, allows the wipers to come out from underneath. It's kind of a cool feature, but one that causes quite a bit of consternation among guys trying to get it to work right. So, looking at this again, we're going to tear this down real quick. Only a few basic tools. You know, a 1/4-inch drive with an extension, a screwdriver, flat tip, and then our ratchet if we need to. And again, I've kind of pre-loosened some of the bolts so we can get to it pretty quickly. So let's get to it and I'll show you. First things first, you're going to pull the back housing off of this. It just connects right here with these 3 basic bolts. So we're going to take those off. We got that one out. Once we get this off, we'll get into here and I'll show you what it looks like inside. There's number 2. And this one's a little more tricky to get to, but we shall get it. So because you've got this clamp on here, which I don't, not clip, but the bracket, and I don't really feel like taking it off right now, what I'm going to do, if I can get my fingers out of the way here, is you disconnect your tool, put that through there, and then grab a hold of it. There you go. So we got that one off. As we drop it, oh, there's my tool right there. Screw comes out, and the housing comes apart. So get that over there. Now looking at it, you can tell this is just a metal housing with a faceplate in here. I'm not going to take those screws out just because they're a little bit more challenging to get to and they're easy to gall those. So this is the basic assembly. This is actually just the outer bezel assembly. I'll show you real quick what this is comprised of. Get my tool back in here again. I'll take this piece off. And these are what creates that deep-seated look in the dash of these early C3 Corvettes. If you've ever seen, they look very rocket pod shaped, kind of jet fighter look. And I think that was the look they were going for. So this bezel comes off right here, just like that. There's your black inner housing, the satin black finish. And you've got a gasket here to keep some moisture out. And then your screen, or your plastic bezel, okay? This is actually a pretty nicely built piece. This is not just your average pot metal. It's actually a little bit heavier duty, sturdy kind of. It's a basic pot metal, but it's pretty nice. It's chrome plated. Even though you can't see that side, it's chrome plated. And of course, that's that look. You're going to see that deep inset look, kind of a magnified look. So that's basically what that looks like there. What we'll do here is we'll get on the back side of this. I'm going to be careful because I don't want to bend my needle, because this is actually a pretty nice tachometer that I've got, one of my spares for a car. So we've got this 1/4-inch comes out here. Get that one out of there. And then on the other side, and there it goes. Okay, so these are special, and you can see they've got a shoulder to them to provide some stability and to push them off at that base just a little bit so they don't come all the way in there. And if I can get that bolt to come out, I'll be in really good shape. There we go. Okay. So I'll leave that in there for now. So basic, the housing. This is your basic stamped little piece of sheet metal. Like I said, this doesn't actually go with the assembly, but it's bolted to the back of the assembly. And of all Corvette things Corvette, that's actually a really hard vacuum pod to come across. They don't reproduce it, don't remake it. So when your wiper doors aren't working, these are kind of a pain in the butt to get to. What's interesting is actually we'll show you which wires go into which. Your dark blue, your gray, that one is pink and tan, gray. So it's kind of got a wiring diagram built into the car for you, so you know what you're doing. Now this is your extension housing on the back here that houses your bulbs and your warning indicators. So that one shows your brake, and that would be for your turn signal. Yes, that's for your right turn signal. I'm looking at it wonky there. So looking at it, taking it apart, you can tell that is just a faceplate, a ceramic. I think even then they were still using ceramic coatings on these. Now the other thing you can do to tell these apart, other than the actual fact of the red line indicator, is they have this greenish tint to them. You might be able to see that on there. That's actually how they were made. They had that greenish tint. Looking in here, see if I can get a good view of it for you. What makes this work is a spring assembly. There's a spring inside this little housing in here, and as we turn it, you're essentially winding up the spring, and that's what makes the RPM gauge turn. Now, it's kind of neat thinking about it that 50 years ago, just about, even then they had some interesting technology in the way they figured out mechanically how to make things work, because none of this is electronic. This is all a mechanical piece. And I kind of appreciate this stuff. I like new stuff, okay, but this always intrigues me because of the mechanical nature of it and what they were working with back then. And this one actually still even has its part number, 6469561, I think. Is that it? Maybe off. And then of course February 24th 69, which is cool because that's February 24th 69, and this one is, I think it's February 26th 69. So there you go. There's a basic disassembly description of a Corvette tachometer from the 68 to 72s. Again, if you are lucky enough to stumble across one of these in the wild attached to a car, take a close look at it, because you may have just found you a nasty, fire-breathing, snorting big block Corvette, which if you can pick up on it cheap would be a good score. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe if you want to see me make some more of these. I do enjoy sharing some of this. This has just been my passion for 30 plus years, playing with these cars and doing some of this. I'll probably be getting more into detailing some of these 427 Corvettes I have laying around, just because I've let them hibernate for long enough. So I will check back with you guys in a few days, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks again for watching, guys.